So here we have the epimysium, which surrounds the muscle. We also have the perimysium, and it surrounds the compartments, also known as the fascicles, which are bundles of muscle fibers. And we have the endomysium, which surrounds each skeletal muscle fiber. So within the muscle fibers, we have something called the sarcomere. The black lines are called the Z lines, which mark the borders of the sarcomeres. The green lines are called the thick filaments, or the myosin, which pull in the thin filaments to generate force in supporting muscle contraction, while the blue lines are called the thin filaments, or the actin, which work with the myosin to create motion with other types of cells. Here, let's take a look inside this random section of the sarcomere. Now, the difference between the two sarcomeres is that one is relaxed, meaning that there is no contraction, while this one involves cross-bridging, meaning that a myosin head is attached to the thin filament, which happens due to a conformational change, where the myosin is pulling the thin filaments inward. In this picture here, we have neurotransmitters filled with acetylcholine inside the axon terminal. And within the axon, the action potential is pushing the neurotransmitters forward, causing the acetylcholine to leave the axon, pass through the synaptic cleft, and into the specialized plasma membrane called the sarcolemma, through the receptors, which is a protective layer or sheath that surrounds the whole cell. However, action potential does not stop there. It then carries on through the sarcolemma into the DHP receptor, where it triggers the release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This regulates the amount of calcium ion concentration in the cytoplasm. Here we have the brown lines that are wrapped around the blue lines are called the tropomyosin, which is protein that works together with the troponin, the black dot on top of it, to create a complex which regulates the interaction between actin and myosin in muscle contraction. Here the green dot also represents the calcium that is beginning to bind to the troponin to cause the tropomyosin to shift from actin filament to the myosin head to produce a contraction. So we're going to look at the ATP and bring the thick filament down from the thin filament. And once the ATP process is done, ADP is going to come back to the thick filament and become attached to the actin once again. But just in case you were wondering, as we come to an end of this muscle contraction, another body system that muscle contractions involve itself with is the digestive system in something called peristalsis, which is a series of wave-like muscle contractions that keeps food going down, starting with bolus in the esophagus, leading down the digestive tract, and prevents it from coming back up the esophagus.